Hi, everybody. It's Cathleen Scott. Welcome to the Cathleen Scott podcast. Today's episode is on AI. Who's using it and why? So this is kind of an interesting question. I was having lunch with my son, and both of my sons are creative, and we were talking. And I've been always excited to share how I'm using AI to help our firm be more efficient, and help us to improve the overall client experience, and to even help improve the overall employee experience, particularly for onboarding. So we were having a conversation about some tools that the firm was using. And it's interesting to me, both of my sons, who are 25 and younger, have a real hesitancy as it comes to AI. And certainly some of that stems from the fact that they're in a creative space. So I did a little research, and I read through some various university articles, some digital magazine articles, as well as the New York Times articles. And I found some interesting statistics. So who is using AI? Well, by far, by all sources across all boards, the most common use of AI are individuals who are older than 25 but younger than 54. That's where we see the highest adoption rate, and that's the Gen X millennial category. And they're using it in their workflows. They're using it for fun things like decorating. They're using it to help their kids with homework. They're using it to do all kinds of things, shopping lists, to help them create recipes, as well as with their work. That's interesting. Those who are under 25, who are considered to be Gen Zers, they are the most inhibited about using it, and they're much less frequent and less likely to adopt using AI. While it seems as though they are willing to use it for homework and they're willing to use it for things of that nature, they are the ones expressing the most amount of concern. But I wanted to flag this because I think it's important from an employment law standpoint. I mean, why does it matter? Because I know I'm 54, and I've been very much like a fan of finding safe ways to use AI to help us deliver a better service. Let me explain what I mean by that. So if I meet with a new client and I use a note taker, my note taker will summarize for me the things that I promised to do for that client and turn that into a task so that my team can be like, hey, don't forget, you promised to do these 6 things for that client. You need to do these 6 things for that client. AI isn't doing the task for the lawyers and the team and the paralegals, but it's a great reminder. It's a little like chirp in my ear that says, hey, your letter only addressed 3 of those 5 things. Don't forget to address the other 2. And I get really excited about that because for us, it's all about making sure the client has the best experience. And so when I hear a thing about from my son, my younger sons, and from individuals who are in that age group who are like, well, that AI is going to take over, I kind of look at them like, I think it's great. I'm saving all this time and effort and energy. So I think it's important as employment lawyers to recognize it may not be what you think. We tend to think of technology kind of slowly taking hold of individuals who are older, and the younger group of individuals being more excited and apt to adopt changing forms of technology. And that might be true when we're talking about the new iPhone, but it appears it's not so true when we're talking about the use and adoption of AI, and how you can think about that in the employment space is to making sure that you're explaining why we're using the AI, what purposes we're using it for, and to make sure those guardrails are up. And as always, AI makes mistakes and can make mistakes, and you need to have those safeties in there. One thing that we find particularly useful is using Google Drive, because we have an enterprise subscription, and that allows us to do our Gemini searches completely safe and outside of anybody's purview. And this is particularly a concern for legal industries because we're worried that clients might think it's okay to maybe take a letter from a law firm or take their facts of their case and put that out there in the ether and do a little investigation on their own about, what causes of action does this arise. And what they may not realize, and what clients may not realize, is by putting that information out there and getting that information, you might be disclosing privilege. You might be, sharing information out there, and that could be your search. Your actual search, and the response that it gives you could be discoverable if you end up bringing a lawsuit later on. And just to clarify, what I'm suggesting is AI can be helpful, it can be useful, but if a client or potential client is out there and they're putting their facts of their case and advice they may have received from a lawyer into ChatGPT or into Claude or into some other type of search engine that isn't private, that their searches are subject to out there in the ether, in the public ether. And if they ever did bring a claim, that search and its responses could potentially be discoverable. And here's why that could be devastating to a case. One is if the response you get tells you that you don't have a claim and you pursue it, that could be problematic in litigation. But more importantly, if you're putting in what your lawyer said to kind of test that in a public way by using chat or by using Claude, you're basically waiving privilege. So there's only an attorney-client privilege between you and the client, and between a lawyer and a client, if you don't share it with a third party. And putting it in a search engine destroys, poof, that privilege is gone. So I think maybe the younger generation might have the right level of caution here as it relates to the use of AI. It's great, it's helpful for some things, but we need to go carefully, we need to go slowly, we need to be, intentional with how we're using it and make sure those guardrails are up. I'm Kathleen Scott, and I want to thank you so much for joining the Kathleen Scott podcast. As always, if you like our content, please subscribe. Also, you're welcome to post a comment, and we'll do our best to respond to it. Thank you so much for joining. I'll see you next time on the Kathleen Scott podcast.